Take it back. Please pass the potatoes.
Welcome to the September 21st, 2021 meeting of the Clark County Fire District 6 Board of Commissioners. And I'd ask you to join me in the flag. Okay, we're going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance.
Does it pledge allegiance to the state of Washington?
No.
Okay, we're not doing that.
Additions to the agenda.
None here.
None here.
I'm going to make a change in the agenda and move our bond counsel up after citizen communication, if that's okay, and then they won't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Okay.
Read and approve the minutes of the September 7th, 2021 meeting.
Move that we dispense with the reading and approve as presented and post as necessary.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Correspondence, do we have any?
There's just a letter that I put in there from the Clark County Reflector about the Station 151 facility and a joint interview with Chief Moore and myself.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I saw it right before our meeting. I brought it to the meeting. Everybody seemed to have already read it. I thought it was breaking news. Like, hey, they're talking about us.
It was a couple weeks old, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Citizen communication, this is the time during our meetings we set aside for citizens of Fire District 6 to address the board. If you are watching on YouTube and you want a question or a comment, there's a chat section that you can put that into, and Chief Russell will let us know if anybody does comment. So thank you. Health and safety.
So Chief Russell does have a health and safety report tonight. Are you able to get that, Chief Russell, or would you like me to?
Would you mind? I don't have it up. Thank you.
In that health and safety report is a report on the accident where we had two firefighters injured, one requiring surgery from the injury. So that is in there for you.
It talks about the rubber mat. Was the rubber mat part of the procedure and not utilized, or is it now going to be part of the procedure, or how's that play in?
So the rubber mat was put there before the tower was put into operation, specifically for ladder slides and slips. And it appears that the ladder wasn't fully on that mat that would help them from sliding.
Is the rubber mat mobile?
I'm not sure if it's attached.
It is, yeah.
Is it part of the procedure of deploying the ladder?
It is not a part of the procedure because we can encounter all sorts of different grounding surfaces. And really what kind of the investigation unfolded was the improper or the movement of the person in the heeling position or the footing position. As you can see in the documentation there, he's under the ladder, which is a position that we train on. But then he tries to look, and a company officer being in that position is really hard to visualize. And so he was changing position to be able to see, and that's when the ladder became unstable and fell. Had he been in the position of putting the ladder from facing the building, which is another position we train on, he wouldn't have had to move. He would have had good vision of the firefighter entering the window, and we would have not had the incident.
What's the status of our members now?
So the member that required surgery is still at home recovering, plans to come to light duty in a few weeks. The other member had some deep bruising with time off work, but no surgery required and should be back to duty.
So be sure to send them our best.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you for the detailed report too.
Yeah,
it was really well done.
Good, thank you. So other things in health and safety, the injury report talks about those two firefighters that were injured. So one with a leg injury after a fall and another one with a ankle fracture from the ladder. 3 other injuries reported, one from knee pain stepping off an apparatus, no time lost, no claim filed. Another knee pain after a brush call, no time lost, no claim filed. And a laceration to the hand with no time lost and no claim filed. One of the things that the shifts have been talking about within the safety committee is House Bill 1310 and the lack of law enforcement response. So we're still working through those issues with CCSO. And that's it.
Questions? How about triple FB, Casey?
Yeah, Triple FB, we met, and I shared that article from the Reflector with the group, and Chief Newberry was there, and we talked about the 60-40 split with District 6, and we all agreed that that wasn't gonna fly, but that Chief Noor and Chief Maurer were gonna continue to work out the indifference that we have, but going forward, we both needed to be able to adjust our budgets for the next year, and we agreed just to level it out and go 50-50 on the budget, because I didn't want to fight for the 60-40, just because it would have been a fight for, it was like $4,000 or something like that. And I think it'll come out, if we make a good deal going forward, it'll come back to us. But for the sake of splitting things and round numbers, 50-50 seemed to be an amicable, agreed upon number, and we did save 10%. And I don't think it's fair, totally. But going forward, I think the deal will be in the future of what we do, whether they count the calls and they reimburse us or whatever, because I mean, just 2 days ago we just had all of our engines up there again on 199th Street, and so here we go again. So hopefully you guys work that out. But that's what happened at that meeting, and then we've got some bad HVAC units up there, and it's like, what are we going to do with those? How long are they going to last? And we need to put together a budget. So we leveled it out to where we can both put those numbers in our budgets and go forward. So I think we're going to move forward with the recommendation from Garen Air, I think it was, that those HVAC units need to be replaced. And Chief Newberry, tell me about, we speak to the recirculation of these units, and they talked about these units and how they,
what new HVAC energy code, heating code requires fresh air intakes, and there's a couple of different ways to do that, and it will be, the county will help decide what they're going to require for any HVAC unit upgrades out there. So we've encountered it here a number of times where we've had to go up into the attic and put fresh air intakes into the system. And at 63, when we built it, we built kind of an all-inclusive unit that sat on top of the roof. It was a huge change order. It's called a DOAS unit that sits up there and controls that. But it's just a requirement by the new energy code. It also requires a fairly robust review process and additional equipment. But it sounded like Chief Yeager had already discussed that with the heating and AC contractor, and they were fully informed. It sounded like they were informed on the process or the expense. So,
well, thank you for explaining that, because you have in-depth knowledge of that. So.
well, I wouldn't say in depth.
Well, you know a lot about those HVAC replacements. So,
Is the 50-50 split looking to be implemented in 2022, or what's the timeline for
yeah,
the
that's
50-50 split?
2022.
Okay.
And so we're just going to split the cost of it, and then whatever is worked out between the chiefs, going forward, can be implemented and dealt with. But for budgeting purposes, we need to know and they need to know, and so it's a relatively low number. But rather than us be taking the extra 10%, at least let's get it back down to 50-50.
Right.
So I wasn't going to fight for the 60-40, because I think I don't want to win the battle and lose the war, so to speak, because I think there's a lot more to be had in the art of the deal that you're going to do for us.
Well, I really do appreciate the Triple FB doing that, because I have been in contact with the state auditor about this situation in particular, and actually they say we are at fault for gifting of funds with the imbalance that we're showing. So that's one step closer to getting that balance back and making sure that we're clean with the auditor.
Do you mind if I interject one more thing? It was important that we had a discussion at that meeting about the separation between what the operational budget is at 151, which is the 50-50 split, and that's completely separate and unique to the imbalance of station 62 and 63 going up and serving that area.
Right.
That imbalance that's there. So it's very distinctively different. And so we discussed this actually quite at length because I didn't understand all of the stuff that was going on because I hadn't been there. I was just a fill-in. And that this is just strictly just the operational budget at 151. It has nothing to do, or very little to do, with the discussions that Chief Maurer and Chief Knorr and the boards have had.
Right.
So,
We might interject real quick that the county was gonna pay the vast majority of that bill, and whatever's left, we split. It's not like.
Yeah, it's a low number.
The county pays 60.
the county, I believe it was 60%, 40%, and then our 40% used to be split 60-40, now it's split 50-50.
Okay, so we pay 40% of whatever's split, okay. Right. Just wanna make sure everybody knows that, because we're not paying the whole thing. I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Just back to the auditor real quick. So our Fire District 6, our auditing that we get back, that doesn't include that operations. The message you got from the auditors about gifting, is that a separate audit that takes place, or is that in line with our
That would be
clean audits that we receive?
That would be with our audit. So
Okay.
that's when the state auditor comes in and audits our finances.
Right.
They will look at anything where we're providing more service and not getting that in return.
Yeah.
And that's considered gifting of funds. So
Did you reach out for that information, or did they catch that?
I called and asked.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Because they haven't caught you.
No, they haven't
Yeah.
caught it, was what I was going at. Was,
Yeah,
they haven't caught it in our previous
different,
audits.
you're
so.
different cycles that seem to find different things.
I think there's been a lot of movement too. There's more people moving into that area. Clark moved some of their apparatus. So some of that caused a lot more of the call volume that maybe we haven't seen in the past. And then we also had the volunteers at 151 that kind of buffered that for us.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's all I have then.
Anything else on the committee reports? Okay, sorry, Jim, if you're there.
Jim.
Our bond guy.
Oh,
We'll switch over to the bond discussion resolution real quick, and I think we have them. We might have to move to see them. Or turn on chairs or something.
Jim, are you there?
There he is.
Damn it, Jim.
Jim, can you hear us?
I can.
There you are.
Yep.
So we have Jim Nelson from DA Davidson who does the bond proposals for us. And then Lee, can you say your last name for me? Marquisio, who's the legal counsel for the bond.
Nice to see you all again. Hope you're doing well. I recognize most of you behind your masks.
Hopefully we'll see you in 3 or 4 weeks.
Is that you waving at me, Casey?
That's me, brother. You got any money for us?
I'm gonna explain it. It's good stuff.
Got some splitting to do.
If you turn to page 2, so as you know, you're considering, I'll wait for slide 2.
One more, Dave.
Nice to meet you, David. So as you know, you're planning to issue a limited tax general obligation bond, also known as a commissioner bond, non-voted, for a construction fund deposit of $8 million. And talking with Kristen, it sounds like you want to finance it for a term of 20 years, spread those payments out. There's a call date prepayment option that starts in the 10th year. And I like that idea because you're taking advantage of low interest rates, spreading those payments out so it's less pressure on the current expense fund. And then if you come into more money in the future, you can always choose to shorten that term. When the district issued the 2017 bonds, you achieved a rating of AA-, so you'll have to go through that exercise again to do a rating presentation, and we can certainly coach to prepare you for that. And then currently, long-term interest rates are near a historic low. If we turn to slide 3, it's interesting to see this interest rate chart. You know, your 2017 bonds cannot currently be refinanced because mean, we'll look at it again, but your call date doesn't start until 2027. And in 2017, Congress, in their infinite wisdom, eliminated tax-exempt refunding bonds. But it probably will not work because you're too many years away from the call date. What's interesting is you see how interest rates really dropped there around 2018. You see 2019, and then as we came into 2020 with COVID, we actually priced a bond for North Mason Regional Fire Authority, and we finished it right after the bottom of that point there, just to the left of June 2020. It was on March 11th. On March 12th, interest rates spiked up, and they went up almost a full 1%, came down, did it 3 times, and we had another issue that we were working on with Lee's firm, North County Regional Fire Authority up in Snohomish County. And so I think the lesson there is, you know, we'll set a schedule, but if we ran into a market condition like that, we'd be the first ones to say, you know, let's postpone it and let the market just settle down. And in fact, it did. So we hit the new historic low on August 6, 2020. Then you can see started to go up from there with the presidential election, November 2020, and the so-called paid interest rate experts said, yeah, rates will just keep going up now. And they went the opposite direction. February 2021, they went up a little bit, came back down, set a second historic low, and that was on July 22nd, 2021. So where that red arrow is, you're not too far from that historic low. And so it's a great time to consider issuing bonds. You know, kind of the $1 million question is, where rates going? And no one truly knows. There's talk on the Federal Reserve. I think tomorrow we'll be talking on if they're going to change tapering, which means, you know, whether they buy fewer Treasury securities to keep rates down. One report thinks they'll postpone that decision for another month or so. But right now it's a stable time to be considering bond financing, and interest rates are really low. Any questions so far on slide 3? We go on to slide 4. You can see the estimated bond payments. And if we focus in on 20 years, then your average annual payment is about $488,000 a year that would be paid from the current expense fund. And the estimated true interest cost is 1.90%. That assumes a rating of AA-, and because you're issuing less than $10 million in a calendar year, you're known as a bank qualified issuer, which means that banks that purchase your bonds can write off a portion of the accounting processing costs, and that they're willing to accept a lower yield because of that. So I'll stop there and see, I guess, what you think about the estimated payments, estimated true interest cost, and if you're comfortable with a 20-year financing term.
Dave and Chief, y'all good with it? Mr. Secretary?
Yes, I am.
We're good.
Okay, keep going. Slide 5 is just some general information. This is more Lee's expertise, but when you issue bonds, tax-exempt bonds, you must expect to spend the bond proceeds within 36 months of the issuance date. And I believe you'll easily be able to do that. We talked about bank qualified status. When you're issuing $10 million or less, banks can write off the carrying costs and accounting adjustment, and they're willing to accept the lower yield. And then the reimbursement resolution, I always call it a safety net, but I believe Lee will, the resolution tonight pretty well cover that as far as the capital expenditures between now and when the bond proceeds are received.
That's correct.
Okay. On page 6, you can see information on the bond rating, and there you are at A-. So you're 3 grades lower than the top rating of AAA. And of course, the higher the rating, the lower the interest cost. And I think some of you may recall from the last rating presentation, the rating analysts are going to focus in on your economy, which is doing really well, looking at your assessed valuation growth, top 10 taxpayers, top 10 employers, per capita income. They'll look at debt factors as far as how much outstanding debt you have, what are your future plans, financial performance over the last 5 years, looking at your financials, and your unrestricted cash. And cash is a percent of your annual expenses. And then they'll look at management factors, monthly reports, how you budget, if you do a financial forecast, say for 6 years, 10 years, or longer. And then a financial management policy. I had mentioned to Kristen earlier, you may want to consider, tweaking or updating your financial management policy, just in a few aspects, and that might be helpful. I know that it's impressive to the rating analysts, and it's viewed very positively when you update a financial management policy, and we're happy to help you with that process. On the next slide, slide 7, that just gives you again an overview of the financial management policy, promotes financial integrity, assists elected officials and staff, and provides continuity over time. The key points they focus in on is your unrestricted cash goal, some of the other things I mentioned, the financial forecast, use of a capital facilities plan, and then regular updates to a financial management policy. I sent some examples that are about 12 to 13 pages long, and those are considered more robust policies. So I would encourage you to think about that. And again, I can help you with that process. Right now, kind of the target dates, Lee's office just released a draft preliminary official statement, which we'll be reviewing, providing comments. Then we draft a rating presentation and go through that with staff. And then we would have a rehearsal conference call like we did last time. And then from there, we have the formal rating conference call. And then you receive the rating. We market the bonds for 2 weeks and then set the interest rates as low as we can while still getting orders for the bonds. And doing all that kind of brings us to a target date of receiving funds, say sometime between December 1st and December 15th.
And we have no idea what the interest rates will be come December 1st, do we?
No, we don't, and you can't lock into them today because it's all dependent on the market. But I think for the most part, it's going to be stable.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll just have to see. If there was something we didn't like in the market, then we could always postpone it, depending on what the circumstances are. And circumstances, from my experience, that show an overreaction are things that are in the news, sometimes information on COVID, sometimes information on situations in the Middle East. You never hope for bad information in the news, but it's interesting. Sometimes when there is bad information, it actually helps the interest rates to go down because there's a flight to quality where people take their money from the stock market and go to the bond market for a safe haven.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Just to recap, we don't know that we're a AA minus, do we? You don't know until you go apply, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it could be worse than that because we pulled the loan already.
Oh, because you already have an outstanding bond?
Right.
Yeah, and then, I'm going to focus in probably tomorrow on your financials. So you have an outstanding bond, but it's not that large of a bond. But then you look at how your economy has grown since 2017, as far as test valuation growth, all the other growth in the area. So I would think at a minimum, assuming that you have similar cash balances or better compared to 2017, I would think at a minimum you would be reaffirmed at AA minus, and then there's the potential that you could be upgraded. If you're upgraded, then you'd probably go up to AA.
Thank you.
Thank you, sirs.
So, if the board would like, Lee drafted the resolution 2021-06, and he could go over the basic points of that with you.
Sure, thank you. And again, Lee Marquisio from the Foster Garvey Law Firm. Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Commissioners. It's my former colleague Lindsay Coates was down last time with you, and our firm is just delighted to continue serving the district. So Jim covered most of this. I'll just touch on some of the highlights. Local governments, as you know, typically finance capital projects with bond issues. For fire protection districts, that comes in the form of either voted bonds or non-voted bonds. And these are not voted bonds. And non-voted bonds are paid from your general tax collections, your regular levy. One thing for the rating analysts that Jim might talk about is that the voters of this district have been very supportive of your regular levies, including your current levy right now, which is right at the maximum based on voter support. So that's always a good sign. For voted bonds, they would be paid by excess taxes and wouldn't affect your regular levy. Now, the one thing about general obligation bonds from fire districts is that they are backed by the full faith and credit of the district. And so they're really only limited by one thing, which is your debt capacity, which is the total amount of borrowing that you can do. And after the issuance of these bonds, you're still going to have probably over 60% of your non-voted debt capacity and close to 80% or more of your voted total debt capacity. So this is another indication that the district is not really over borrowing at all under those guidelines established by the legislature. This resolution itself, it's not actually it's not actually selling bonds today. It authorizes the district to sell the bonds, and it appoints a designated representative to sign the bond purchase contract on the pricing day. And in that way, it authorizes the sale of the bonds. Back in the old days, 10 years ago, and before that, districts would have to have a special meeting on the bond sale day and pass a bond sale resolution or adopt it, and it could get a little bit hairy, but now they have this delegation procedure, which is quite convenient. Now, of course, that delegation procedure sets parameters. So Exhibit A in the back of the resolution really has all of the terms that you're setting today that cabins what can actually be accepted. And as bond counsel, we will be closely monitoring on the pricing date to make sure that all of the parameters are met and none are exceeded. Otherwise, we'd have a problem with the bond issue. So that's what this bond resolution does, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
You talked about a discount. Is that your department or is that Jim's department?
For discount bonds?
No, the one that we're gonna get because it's below 10 million. We're gonna get a discount.
Oh.
Do you guys also provide a discount because we're a repeat customer? Frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's a fun.
Cat got your tongue?
I'd be happy to talk about the discount for banks that purchase the bonds.
Yeah, I bet.
And have to talk to the firm about other discounts.
Ask them.
You get breakfast.
Okay.
I think we're good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
Commissioners.
both for your time, really appreciate it. Jim, we'll see you at conference probably, right?
Yes, quick question for Kristen or David. Does the district currently collect the GEMT transport monies?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you charge transport fees?
We do not. Yeah, it's
Okay.
third service. So.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Great, yeah, thank you very much. And I know you know this procedure, again, it's just a motion and adopt and then signatures.
Okay,
And
Great.
If it's approved, I'll get it off to you guys tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Take the
Have a
rest of
good
the night
evening.
off, Dave. Jim.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, call your attention to the consent agenda.
I move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Chief's report, we're on and down the line there, Chief. Yeah, it is.
So overtime summary report for the month of August, we had a total of $113,279.63. The majority of that was in shift replacement and overtime, and that was at $92,000 and some change.
Oh. Big number. Okay,
For the budget performance report, we would anticipate that our expenditures would be 58.3%. We've expended 42.1 in 6212 general fund, and we've expended 55.6 in 6242 EMS. There is also a weekly COVID update for you in your board packet. This was as of September 16th, and we've had a little bit of decrease in active cases within the county.
any questions to the chief?
None here.
Do you have a narrative? What are your thoughts? You know, we thought we were done with this, and now we're coming back with the Delta and everything else, and cause and effect with what's before us. What are your thoughts?
Well, staff has, we were talking today that we've been dealing with COVID for 2 years now, and as has everyone, but it's something different every day. We're working now through the mandatory vaccine mandate from the governor and how we could potentially work through that, or what it looks like if we can't work through that process. Right now, until we attempt to get all personnel vaccinated, we're all going to wear masks and stay the course. But
I see that you stepped it up, because we got a little comfortable, but we didn't have any outbreaks, did we? Within our ranks?
we have not had any personnel contract COVID from work. We have had one breakthrough case with a suppression member that got it off duty, and then we've had a couple staff members that have gotten it, but none of them have been exposures through the workplace, and so that's why we continue the masks and the safety in the workplace. It's a difficult process to work through. There's no right answers for either side, and we're just trying to be empathetic to everyone involved and really try to see everyone's perspective while maintaining the safety of our crews.
Agreed.
Anything else? Okay. There is no old business listed. Is there any old business that you need to discuss?
None.
None here.
Hearing none, new business, right to the bond resolution we just heard about.
Well, I think it's good money. I think it's as good a money as we'll ever see. And we can make good use of it, and we can do capital improvements. We've got, looks like, 4 different options on how to expend those dollars and whatnot, and I'm in favor of locking it up.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move forward and move forward with the bond resolution. And I will get to that. It is resolution 21-06. Make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. Thank you, gentlemen. Station 6-1 remodel.
And I'm gonna turn this over to Chief Newberry to give you the details of the building project, and then we can discuss financing options too.
Thank you. So, bring you all up to speed. We are at the point in the process where you've all seen the initial set of drawings. That's just a kind of a rudimentary start. We have met with the county. We had our pre-construction or permitting meeting last week. Got a lot of the questions that we had with the architect answered. Not all of them, but most of them have been answered. And Chief Maurer and I have met since then and discussed all of the options and all of the financial ramifications of different choices. And then before you have the project cost estimate from McKinsey and their partner Rowan, so that you can see those different options. I think it goes without saying that the fire station itself needs to be remodeled. And we need to bring it up to an essential facility standard and ensure the safety of our employees and our service to the community. And that is the lion's share of the expense, totaling about 10,644,077 is the estimate. That takes care of the fire station itself, but it does not address the shop area. It includes some panels of concrete that have failed outside. It includes the generator that's required to bring the building to the facility, essential facility standard. It helps alleviate some of our environmental concerns with the fuel pumps and relocates them, and takes care of the station itself, security as well. It does not address the shop need, and we've had long discussions over the last several months, maybe a couple of years, about the shop and the challenges that we see with the partners that we've had, in other areas, our shop, our mechanics, and we've hired a mechanic, and he's working out great. Just really a great addition to the fire district. But the cost of the shop is very expensive. We have not gotten a really, really solid answer out of the county as to whether or not that's going to be required to be built to the essential facility standard. The essential facility standard is an expensive route to go. It's about a 25% increase to just a commercial standard. And we don't really know if they're going to make us do that really until we go to permitting. I mean, we could make some wagers and guess, but it seems as if we don't have to, but they didn't give us anything solid. So what you see before you is basically 4 options of how to go forward with the project. Chief Maurer will speak more to the financials and what's available, but in column 1 you'll see the Station 61 remodel. In column 2 you'll see the Station 61 remodel plus the shop remodeling only, basically doing a light tenant improvement on that. The third column is Station 61 is 1 bay adding on, and then the final column, or the fourth column, is adding 2 bays. This is a process. This getting into the kind of the business of fixing our own rigs is a process, and it's an expensive endeavor, and it's going to be up to the board to decide which direction we want to go. Do we want to take care of the fire station now and do a basic facelift, or not do anything to the shop, maybe just work out of the normal budget and the small works roster to do painting and just cosmetic things down at the shop. Does the board want to do a full facelift included in this budget at the shop? Do you want to add a bay or not, or do you want to add 2 bays or not? And we will support whatever the board decides. I encourage the board to consider, though, even if we don't pull the trigger now on the full meal deal on the shop, to consider what we want to be looking like in 10 and 15 and 20 years from now. And money's cheap right now. I know that this is not enough to cover everything. Who knows when the right time, if the right time is ever going to come to go to that level. That's really a direction that we're looking for guidance from the board and what you want to do. But it's not going to hurt our feelings, just whatever you decide. But I just encourage the board to consider the way that Chief Maurer and her strategic plan is laid out for, the 15, 20 year plan of what we're going to look like. So, any questions that you might have, I'm available to try and answer them.
The 4 bays we currently have,
Yes, sir.
if we do just remodeling without adding any bays, what are those 4 going to be used for?
Okay, so the current configuration is we have 2 mechanics bays, 1 facilities bay, and 1 cadet bay. And that meets our current needs, kind of. We're gonna have to get real creative on how we're going to do some other things, like what do we do with the PT room, the workout room for the crews that can't be working out in the truck bay. What do we ultimately do with the cadets? What do we do about central supply and inventory and things that, as we grow, we're trying to make those things more automatic and mechanized and things like that. So that's what the current status is that will take us through this year.
So there's no way we could use one of those bays currently for PT unless we boot out facilities or cadets.
Correct.
And what are the options for facilities and cadets?
Okay, so
Maybe tell them the option for PT first.
there's probably a better option for PT that we haven't really vetted until recently when we started getting a better picture from the county, but it's adequate to put the PT space down below, but it's more optimal to have the crews closer to the trucks, closer to the truck bay, closer to quarters. And there's a space out back that likely where the fuel tank currently is that could likely be used for, it would be an addition and to be used for a PT space. It would be similar in size to Station 63's. We would design it how we want to, and the price on that, I think McKinsey came back, it's about $195,000 roughly to do that without getting into all the nitty gritty. That's the high estimate of that.
And that
That seems
cost
pretty
is
reasonable.
included in the ad alternate in the overall cost of the 10.644.
It is.
It is in there, yes.
Okay.
So that,
So if we're gonna put PT up here, what are we gonna use the $1.2 million for in the existing shop?
in option number, in the second column,
Yeah.
Station 61 shop remodel only.
Yeah.
So there's a need for roofing, there's a need for some weatherization, there's if we wanted to divide any of those spaces between cadets and facilities, there's walls that need to be put up. There's certain infrastructure, making sure that the doors are adequate and all the things that come in with a tenant improvement project. Some office space, relocating entrances into the bathrooms, adding some bathroom facilities for use from directly outside. So there's a whole host of things.
But a lot of those we could do down the road off the small works roster.
I'm not sure that size of a project
That's too
should be
much.
done off the small works
I can't
roster,
remember what
but
the limit is on the small works roster.
300. It's 330 30,000, I think.
330, okay.
But
I guess my thought is if, I would prefer to have PT closer, and $200,000 in that 10 million, I think is a really good deal. I think that's really appropriate. Having to battle the county, I mean, if the county comes back and says it's an essential facility, maybe we don't do anything. If they come back and say it isn't, maybe we can afford to do part of it or some of it.
so the essential facility standard would only be triggered in case of an addition to the building. It's not triggered just on a tenant improvement.
So if
So
we just do tenant improvement, we don't have to worry about the additional 25%.
that's correct. So station, the column that's labeled Station 61 Shop 1 Bay and 2 Bay, those are the ones that would trigger that, the potential for that. I wish I knew what they were gonna do. I just really wish I do. Everything looks like it would just be a commercial standard, from what we've read in the WAC, from what their really basic comment has been during our meetings and after our meetings. But unless they just come out and commit to it, we've been through this before where they changed the rules of the game at the last second.
You said the only true way to find out is to file for permits.
Correct.
Okay. And so,
In order to file for the permits, we gotta have 80% complete drawings.
I think you have to have a permit set, so you have to be 100%.
Oh, is that right?
Well, and
I mean, just to find out the cost, it just seems, it seems like they should.
I
be
agree.
But isn't there one they needed to know by Thursday? Don't they need to
I
know
mean,
by
it just seems
Thursday
like they should be
direction
able to let us
for
know
land use?
if that qualifies or if it doesn't.
They should be able to.
so that's kind of a separate issue, but just another piece of information is because we are breaking into the concrete, because we are relocating the fuel pumps, because we have a genset going in, because we are changing some, if we added anything onto this building, it triggers a complete land use review process, which Kathy told us this week that it's likely a year from now before we'll start, before we would be ready to build.
Sure.
And we would have to decide if we wanted to go out for bid prior to the final permit or after the final permit. Now, if you'll remember at 63, we went out for bid before we had final permits, and there was a lot of things that after the final permit came, we had to change, which, I mean, change orders and all the expenses associated with that. So I think the common wisdom right now is to just get your permits in hand and then go to bid.
There was also a big delay in the timeline, so we thought we'd get the permits in June. They didn't come till much later, and so we had a contractor that we were paying on site that couldn't work.
So hearing, have to go before the hearing examiner. How soon could that occur?
So it's a 12-week process from the time that we applied for that.
One more quick question. On the south side, are we adding anything on there, or is that wall staying where it currently is?
On the south side,
I don't ever see anything in the drawings.
there's nothing in the drawings, but neither is this addition back
Right.
here. The chief and I have discussed another option for if the board chooses not to go forward with the shop, what are we gonna do with some of these other kind of essential things that we have? And mirroring an addition on that side is something that we've kicked around, that we would have to have price, but if it was a comparable price, it's another $200,000. It certainly isn't the 5 million. It's just it's much more.
So we potentially could add on there for roughly 200,000 and put facilities there.
We could. It would just be interesting to see how we would tie the roof in, because over there it's of course 8-foot ceilings. We need a higher ceiling for kind of essential supply, and you just have to have a creative hip roof system. We just haven't seen any rendition of it, and it's just been brainstormed.
I mean, if we could do that for a couple 100,000 and just leave the shop the way it is right now, have facilities there,
Yes.
then we wouldn't have to do anything in the shop. We'd have plenty of room down there for the mechanic, and we'd have a bay that we'd obviously use in the future. But and then facilities would be closer, and Catherine wouldn't have to walk down in the rain every time she wanted to get something out of facilities either, so.
She doesn't walk in the rain. She just walks to the logistics room, and she has a great space that she's created by my office. But
Okay.
nonetheless, the key that I think about is what and I'll just mention it again and this is not me pressuring to do it right now. The key is if we are going to be a self-sufficient fire service organization, and we've committed to that because we've hired a mechanic and we've looking at the truck, and there's all these things, we want to be able to rely upon ourselves more and more. We don't have a shop facility that will accommodate that. Our ceilings are not high enough to lift rigs, therefore we can't get underneath them and pressure wash them easily. We have some other solutions where we can do things outdoors and use portable lifts, and that's great as a stopgap for sure. It's just, I would be remiss if I did not put that out on Front Street that I hope that at some point in the future we can grow and meet this vision that we have for a facility that will be able to take care of our stuff. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I would like to see us in that direction of where we're able to do these services for our own. We've made significant investments in our own, mechanic aspect of what we do internally. I just wonder, I wish that there was more that we could know regarding essential facilities versus we have a $2.8 million or a $3.2 million enhancement addition of 1 or 2 bays, but by the sounds of it, it looks like that could be as high as 25% more based upon an essential services need. Is that right?
Are these numbers that include the 25% or is this the
No, that does not include seismic upgrade,
Okay.
but it's these bottom numbers in the yellow. So
Yes.
by the time you add all the,
I'm looking at 2.8 for 1 bay. Is that right? And 3.2 for
almost
Yes.
3.3? Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a massive commitment, and 25% more than that's even a more
Yeah.
massive commitment, and I understand that. And there's no good answer, especially with Clark County being Clark County.
Mm-hmm.
We visited a facility down in Oregon today at the Clackamas shop,
Mm-hmm.
essential facility, and it's just amazing shop. Very expensive. When they built it, it was $8 million, and that was 4 years ago. So that's a $10 million building that they've invested in. Much bigger
How
organization.
many mechanics do they have though?
They have 4 or 5 technicians plus supervisors, but it also houses all their facilities and logistics, and it's a complex kind of. But pie in the sky, and not even pie in the sky. That's not us. That's not what we need. I hope that at some point we do what we need, and I just don't have an answer for you on that essential facility.
How does Brad feel about what we have right now, and what can't he do in our current setup with 2 bays that he could, obviously the truck, but besides the truck, what's the advantage? I mean, those ceilings are pretty high. You can't get underneath.
So Brad is just a gem, and he's not complaining about anything. And he likes being mobile, and that's the way he operates. And so we're getting creative, and we're thinking of ways, okay, how do we work around this if we don't build a shop now? And we have some mobile lifts that we can put on a trailer. They're actually like a pallet jack. They move around really easily. We can put them on a trailer, and we can take them to 63 and service the truck that will be at 63 at 63.
In that bay?
In that bay.
Okay.
And so that's a good thing. I mean, it's much bigger than that because when a rig comes in just for service and needs to be an oil change, we do it the old-fashioned way. You get on a creeper and you go underneath it and you change the oil. That's the way it goes. There's a lot of pressure washing that needs to happen, and that can't happen on a creeper. There's I guess it's just creature comforts or being a more efficient and effective mechanic. You just can't do as much as quickly when you're on your back or as comfortably. But with these lifts, we can even set them up outside. It's not great in the winter, in the middle of the winter, but
What if you're gonna pressure wash anyway?
what's that?
If you're gonna pressure wash anyway, okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember the ceiling height down there, but I thought when we built that, we could get the rig 6 feet in the air.
No, well, it may have been the case with some of the older rigs. The newer rigs, though, we can tilt the cab, and there's about 8 inches of space. When the truck's down there, there's about 4 feet, we think, between the highest point of the various engines and the obstructions at the ceiling level. So it's not quite, if you're a really short dude, like a footer, you're in great shape. But
Because I thought we were at 20 feet down there.
I don't believe the ceiling. I actually measured it, and I think it was 16 feet.
Really?
To the bottom of the lid?
To
Or
the bottom of the lid.
What's the header height to the door? 14 or 16?
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's either 14 or 16.
Yeah.
Anyway, 14, you can get anything in 14.
Get it in, yes.
Yeah, but you're not gonna lift it up.
Correct.
Do we need to give you a direction tonight?
Well, would it be helpful if I gave you the financial situation?
That would help a lot.
Okay. So the board approved the resolution to go forward with the $8 million bond. We've carried over money for this facility project in the budget in 6212.
For several years. Okay.
And we have 3.3 million there. So comfortably, the district can afford 11.3 million. After that 11.3 million, we start having to make other modifications within the budget to afford more of a project. So that, what we have right now with the bond and our revenue, we could easily do the 61 remodel project without doing anything to the shop. The shop at the 1.5 remodel could be possible, but my only hesitation with that is if we're gonna invest 1.5, maybe we should wait to do it the right way rather than little projects of it at a time.
I agree.
If we were to just stay with the Station 61 remodel right now, we would develop a plan within our budget to carry over money in the future years to start financing that shop project, because it's not a if we need it, it's a when we need it and when we can afford it. So it will come. It's just going to be tight if we try to do it now.
So we're on money. Next year we have an EMS levy, which we've had good support for. I don't know where we are right now. We're less than 45 cents a thousand. I don't know where we are. Potential pickups in there. Then we talked about in 24 do another lid lift. And if we did another lid lift in 24, when we go to the voters, I think we could more than justify a better shop facility to save us money and to get our, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As part of whatever the lid lift would be. And that, lid lifts are historically pretty favorable financially to the district. I don't have a problem putting a little money aside each year like we do for apparatus. We've never gone to the voters asking them for money to buy apparatus. We have for facilities, which hopefully they appreciate. But I think that's something, you know, and there's a ladder about 24, or maybe some extra people, or with our strategic plan where we are. I'm really conservative. I want to hear what the other two board members have to say. I think if we're going to do something down there, we should do it all.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable doing it all right now. That's just where I'm at.
That's where I was, and that's where I remain.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I like the idea of putting PT here. Don't have a problem with that and on to the other side. If we can do it for about the same amount of money, because we'll be able to afford it. If you want to look into that.
Yeah, I would like to.
I mean, Brad knew what our facilities were when he took the job. He's a pretty mobile guy.
Yeah.
And maybe in the next 2 years, he can see how we do things and make some suggestions for when we do something down there. And quite honestly, if we do 2 bays down there, we all know it's probably going to happen. Clark Alfer and Clark 3 and some of the other fire districts are gonna wanna have us work on their apparatus like we used to do with District 5. And then, obviously, we need to be able to handle that and make that work, but I think the board, I don't wanna speak for everybody, I think we just all said basically the same thing. Let's be a little conservative and not worry about the shop. Let's do the station right, not have to take money from other areas to try to make the whole thing work. Because if we're gonna do something down there, I wanna do it all at once, it makes sense.
Well, from my perspective, and I think for the chief also, this is very helpful for us. We've, all of us have been in limbo, you guys as well as us, for the last several months, wondering about this and not being able to like take that next step because we just didn't have the foundation built. So this is very helpful. And I'm not disappointed in the slightest. I see what the vision could be or is, and
we do too,
yeah,
Chief, we understand.
Absolutely. So I think it's just the process of it. We don't build things, overnight, and
Right.
And I think this is a good signal and a good way to go. So.
And if we can really, if it comes in at 10.6 and we have 11.3, we know we have a contingency built in, but we know stuff happens, and they give us the flexibility to deal with some of those issues without having to try to find additional funds, which I don't want to make you do at this point in your career because you've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. But I think that's our direction, and I think the three of us really want to have a good shop facility. Mm-hmm. Let's save up for it, let's pass a lid lift, and then let's do it right.
Yeah.
Amen.
Maybe have 2 mechanics instead of 1.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate all your hard work and crunching the numbers and giving it to us straight.
And if you want to add on the other side over there, we do have some flexibility to do that. So staff can take a look at that and see if we need more square footage over there. And we kind of build it so it's easier to add on, except you're gonna have to hit the roof of some sort. I'm not trying to do that.
It'll be creative.
You're getting creative. So
I can see it in my head how it might look.
okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Policy 1089, COVID-19 vaccination requirement policy.
So this was a policy that Chief Schmidt worked on with Brian Snur, our legal counsel. It's the policy for the mandatory COVID vaccination. I'm sorry, for some reason it's not coming up on mine. And essentially, if you read Chief Schmidt's letter that he put out for accommodations and people that could refuse vaccinations based on medical or religious beliefs, it just outlines all those different areas that you could request for accommodations and then how the district would process the request. We did send it to the local prior to the board because we were in contract negotiation or impact bargaining with the MOU that you'll see on the mandatory vaccine in just a minute. And the only thing that the local asked to add was that we would bargain with the local and not with individuals. That's state law, so we didn't feel like we needed to add that sentence to the policy. So that was their only suggestion.
So without mentioning names or HIPAA or any of that stuff, how many members do we have currently that have not had the shot?
So we have 2 members who submitted a religious exemption. We have 1 member that submitted a medical exemption. I'm sorry, we had 2 that submitted medical. 1 was denied and 1 was had not been denied. And then we have 2 that have not submitted anything to the district. So, and that covers this in this policy too, if you have failure to comply, where you end up at the end of the governor's mandate.
Think we'll get sued?
I don't think either side is happy with this, whether your side is anti-vax or your side is vax, and so I would imagine there will be lawsuits with them because of this.
The state for sure. So, gosh, this is so hard. If they get a religious or medical exemption, are they still going to be able to respond to calls? Are they still going to have their license? Are they, a reasonable accommodation would be making them work for the fire marshal or fire prevention, or are they still gonna work the line if they get we have reasonable accommodation. Is that a reasonable accommodation to respond to people without the vaccine at this point? What's the governor say? The governor says they can't?
There's nothing saying that you can't respond if you make the accommodation. So there's no entity that will take away your healthcare license or that kind of thing. You have to make the accommodations to protect the vaccinated staff as well as the unvaccinated staff, as well as our citizens. And I think our citizens expect that we probably perform to our highest level of safety that we possibly can.
I was asked the other day by my neighbor if all of our people have been vaccinated, and I said, I don't believe so. And you know what she said? I don't want the ones that aren't vaccinated coming to my house. So
well, they've
how do we deal
actually
with that?
had a few calls where the patients have asked if they're vaccinated before they'll let them in. So it is happening for sure. But as far as the accommodations can't be a financial or management burden to the district. If accommodations are a financial or management burden, then we don't have to grant the accommodations. You have to accept that they have an exemption, but you do not have to accommodate. And so at that point, the district would have to decide what is reasonable for accommodations.
We would have to accommodate the medical disability, wouldn't we?
Yes, because it falls more under ADA, but you don't, if a medical accommodation is not de minimis to the district and it's a financial and management burden, we can deny that medical exemption if we don't have other positions that are not response positions.
What's de minimis?
It has to be more than a little.
Like, wait a minute, just blew me away.
So you have to accept the exemption. You do not have to make an accommodation necessarily.
Because, I'm reading through this, whatever, but it said if the accommodation would impose an undue hardship on the district or pose a direct threat to the health and safety of the healthcare providers, co-workers, or patients. Now, if they don't get the shot, that's going to be a pretty tough one to accommodate.
What's the discussion amongst other fire districts and organizations? What are other organizations going to do? I mean, they're impacted the same way. So
everybody's all over the board. Some are just not accepting any. Others are making a loophole as big as they possibly can. So it's hard when you talk to legal or other departments because everybody's across the board. At the end of the day, what we do in staff is we ask what do our citizens expect of us. And that's what we base our decisions on. So, and that's what we're here for. We're public servants, and that's what we have to think about.
So we adopt the policy, and down the road, we'll decide if accommodations can be made.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're not gonna get sued right away.
I hope we don't get sued at all.
I do too.
I would hope that they would sue the government.
Well,
They're going to.
Certainly between a rock and a hard spot here.
Yeah, like I said, that there's
It's
just,
not comfortable.
you're not gonna make everybody happy, so there's gonna be one side that's not happy.
It's not, there's no comfort in this one. Well, the
But
local
we do value all of our employees, and whatever we
Absolutely.
can do to keep them here and keep them safe as well as everyone else safe, that's what we want to do. That's the end goal.
But the count is 5. 3 religious, 1 medical, and 2 no way, no Jose.
That's 6.
Oh. Go backwards. Good number.
Yeah.
Are any of them set to retire?
I think there's, I don't know what people's financial status is, but I'm sure there's people that are capable of retiring,
Yeah, I
even
just
if they're
didn't know
not
if
to
they were
retirement age yet.
planning on it or whatever.
Yeah,
So do we have,
it's a hard decision. I mean,
do you have an LOA from the local on this?
we do have an MOU from the local.
MOU, okay.
Mhm.
on this policy,
Not on the policy, but it's how to give them every opportunity to get a vaccination, even past the governor's deadline. So
Which is the last thing on that. I was just wondering if they had signed it or not.
they have signed it. It just
Okay,
needs
that's the
your
last thing
signature.
under new business.
okay.
I was just curious at this point if they had signed it before we make a motion.
And they have not?
They
Yeah.
have, yeah. So that MOU is a little bit different than the
Right.
policy, but they, like I said, they were given the policy to review, and the only suggestion they had was to add that language that we wouldn't bargain with individuals, so.
Well, this is a policy, and so we do need to take action on it. You have a full minute?
Did I see something about the first reading?
Well, normally the board likes to do a review reading and then vote on it the next meeting. This one's time sensitive,
Right.
so if the board were
If we
to
declare
vote
it
on it
time
today, it would be
sensitive, then we
helpful.
can.
Why is it time sensitive?
Because we're-
vaccination days.
Yeah,
Well, are those dates accurate? Because the distance between the first date, the first shot and the second shot appear to have conflict with the dates. Are we sure about those dates?
on the policy, is that?
These are the dates by the mandate, correct?
This is the
Yeah.
government.
So this is the governor's
So
mandate.
they would have had to have the first shot today
Yes.
in order to have the second shot by that date,
By the 19th?
18th.
With the exception of the Johnson & Johnson, I believe October 4th is the last day possible, if they can get that vaccine. And
Did any of our people get Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
if folks that want a certain one, so that's a 2.
So that's why it's time sensitive,
Mhm.
because we already can't comply with it unless you get Johnson & Johnson. And so, could this be modified, these dates?
I think
Because if they're not gonna work,
I think they're accurate.
Go
Fully vaccinated by October 18th, unless Johnson.
fully vaccinated by October 18th, that means if they haven't been shot today,
They have to have the second shot in 2 weeks.
And that's by proclamation from the governor.
Took us back to October
The
4th.
MOU does speak to some date flexibility for
Right.
latecomers.
I just don't wanna adopt something that's not obtainable.
Well, says all healthcare providers shall provide proof of vaccination to the district no later than October 18th. That's pretty specific.
These dates have been established long ago, correct?
Correct.
But fully vaccinated.
Yeah,
It's 2 shots for one, or 2 brands and 1 shot for another.
right,
And
plus 2 weeks.
that's, we're dealing with the
And
dates.
they're readily available.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody can fly right in and get them at the Walgreens.
Or Fred Meyer's, or whatever.
And we've only got 5 that would be affected by it,
Yes.
if they chose to.
There's 6, but one's a volunteer.
Yeah, I was right, so.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt policy 1089 concerning COVID-19 vaccination requirements.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
So moved. Apparatus lift quote. Probably you again, Chief.
Do you wanna handle
Sure. So over the last couple of years, we have discussed the need for lifts. And this kind of segues nicely with the conversation we just had about the shop and the postponing of that shop project. The reason that we're bringing this to you now is manufacturers right now are a little bit crazy, and you're getting price increases monthly, every 45 days, sometimes every week.
Buy some paint.
Yeah. So as we've been researching these, we requested a price quote, and the gentleman told us that we had until really tomorrow, but he said he would honor it through October 1st for these set of lifts. What this set of lifts is a set of 4 mobile, what they're called column lifts. They go underneath the tire of each apparatus. It's a pallet jack type of system where you pallet jack over, you put it into the tire, you sync all the the lifts together, and you push a button and it lifts the apparatus. We can do them indoors, we can do them outdoors, we can put them on a trailer and move them. And the reason that it's time sensitive is because of that October 1st price increase, which is 11%, so it's not a small increase, it's considerable. So we are coming to the board to ask for your consideration of this, and so that we could move forward with the purchase of those things and avoid that price increase.
Is the mechanic Brad familiar with this system, and is he comfortable with it?
Yes.
And there's a trailer, these four go on a trailer, these four go on a trailer that comes with it, or do we have to provide a trailer?
We have to provide a trailer. Now, Chief Maurer just brought up something that I do want to throw out there. It's not a done deal, it's not even close to being a done deal, but we're bird dogging a set of used lifts that are only a few years old that come on a trailer that's already equipped for this. It was a set that another fire organization used until they had their shop built. Kind of fast forward where we are.
We'll resell
And they may be available, but I was hitting the guy pretty hard to try and get me a pricing, and he's not really that interested. The person that owns them now is the dealer of these lifts, and he likes to be able to take them around and show them, you know, as his demo set. So I'm not sure that we're going to get there, but this is a sure thing. So.
What's your recommendation?
Well, in the chief's memo, I put that if the board were to see the need for the lifts, to go ahead and approve them now, and then we wouldn't purchase till the last day of September before that 11% price increase, and then that would give Chief Newberry the opportunity to look into those other options if they were to present themselves.
And once again, we have a top flight mechanic, and at least this will get us by until a lid lift or whatever, and he's comfortable with it, and we have the money.
We did.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the jacks, mobile column lift jacks as they're outlined here.
Second.
Discussion, unless we can get these set before the end of September, right?
I think that's what you alluded to in your memo, was the ability to find other alternatives, right? So
Okay, moving to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your support.
You bet.
Good luck with that.
Surplus list. Imagine what kind of junk we're getting rid of now.
So the surplus list is in your packet. It's always easiest if the board desires to let the chief dispose of it at their discretion, so we can see who needs it and get it to the best places.
Have you been using Chase Tower, or
We have
and then other places?
We've
As
been
you see
using
fit.
mostly J-Stout unless there is a fire service agency that is in need of a donated item that we may have. So.
Somebody might need a 4-slice toaster.
Yeah. I'm not sure why that one was even in the inventory, but it was.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the surplus list and let the chief dispense as she sees fit as presented. Okay.
Moving to second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
No hose in here?
No.
Next time.
I'll tell you how, next time. My buddy just bought the one from Milwaukee. He bought a Pierce
Oh, yeah.
from Milwaukee Fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it came from the Navy.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so
That's
they
cool.
cut all the hoses and decommissioned it. I don't know why, but they put it back together and it works.
MOU, mandatory vaccination.
Yeah, so the district has been, we got notified from the local that with Inslee's mandate of the mandatory vaccination that they would like to do impact bargaining regarding the changes within that. So we did that process, and I have an MOU that we'd like the board's signature on. But essentially what we did is if someone were to come up to that October 18th date when you had to be vaccinated and they said, I made a big mistake, or I decided I really want the vaccine, or whatever the issue is, and they changed their mind, that we would have grace and let them have an extension of that timeline and start that vaccination process. We put them on a modified work schedule so that they weren't responding to calls, and then we'd get them through the vaccination process and get them back online. The other thing that we agreed to is that for any employee that were to resign because they didn't meet the mandate, we would give them 3 months to return to work without any punishment or discipline or that kind of thing.
3 months to return to work with the vaccine.
With the vaccine, correct, sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
so the 3 months would actually be less because they would have to get a shot during that 90 days.
Yeah, they could have up to that. It's not that they get
Okay.
that, but, and that would be, they would be, essentially, they would have resigned, they would have cashed out their cash out leave banks that they can cash out. They would be going leave without pay. When they came back, those leave banks would not be built back up, but they would start from the beginning, but not lose seniority or rank or position.
Okay, that's great.
Commissioner Pfeiffer, do you have an opinion on this?
No, I don't. I appreciate the chief working and presenting this material with the work groups, and I think that it's in line with what is consistently being done out there. So,
I think it's more than fair.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And obviously the local does because they've already signed
Well,
it.
that was surprising. I was like, well, must be good.
Well, you know.
Well, I think it is good, and you know, the bottom line is the goal is to, like I said, get our people protected, and the best way to protect us right now is the vaccine. So if this little bit of time and grace helps people to potentially get the vaccine, that's the goal.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate all your hard work.
And
I
appreciate
know it's
the-
not easy.
Appreciate the locals' willingness to do a reasonable, I believe.
Yes.
Any other new business? Hearing none, we are gonna go into executive session pursuant to RCW 42-30-140 relating to collective bargaining issues and negotiations. Executive session will probably last 20?
20.
Let's do, okay, let's say we're gonna come back in at 7:45 unless we notify you differently before then, so. we're out of executive session, and we met concerning contract negotiations, took no action. Roundtable, good of order.
I just want to say, last Thursday, we attended the fire commissioners dinner, and it was really nice. It was good to see the representatives and get to put faces to all the people that govern around here.
Yeah, it was really good. Sounds like we'll have another one after the first of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spring.
Going up north.
Yeah.
And then also we're moving ahead with October Fire Prevention Month. We're gonna go back into the schools, but do all of it outside. And then Schmicky will be doing the book reading inside if we need to.
Did we decide to do the post contest, or we postponed that? What did they decide? But it wasn't.
I don't know, Schmitzky's in charge.
Okay.
I know he's been talking to Anthony, and it sounds like they want to move forward with it with no luncheon.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what he said today.
Like last year.
Yeah.
Do it like last year. Okay.
Kinda, yeah.
Kind of like last year. Okay.
That's good that we're not discontinuing it altogether, so.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Either authorize September issuance of payroll warrants, authorize September payroll direct deposits, authorize September deposit of federal and FICA med withholding, authorize pre-authorization invoice transmittals, and authorize payment of current bills.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Chris,
you.
for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Turn the mic off.